Is Karl-Anthony Towns the key to the Knicks' title hopes? In this video, we'll explore how Towns can reshape the Knicks' offense and elevate their playoff aspirations. We'll break down his evolution as a floor spacer and how he complements the team's existing stars. Stay tuned because you won't want to miss our in-depth analysis and expert insights, only here on Sports Frenzy TV. Alright, let's dive into the blockbuster trade that's shaking up the NBA. The New York Knicks have acquired Karl-Anthony Towns, and this deal has the potential to significantly shift the landscape in the Eastern Conference. What makes this trade even more fascinating is the reunion between Towns and Knicks head coach Tom Thibodeau, who previously coached Towns during their time together in Minnesota. Under Thibodeau's leadership, Towns became one of the premier big men in the league, earning third-team All-NBA honors, an All-Star appearance, and winning the Most Improved Player award. Now, with Towns back in a system where Thibs knows how to utilize his skill set, it's going to be really interesting to see how this Knicks lineup takes shape. Towns is expected to move back to his more natural center position, a role where many believe he thrives best, particularly in today's NBA. Let's take a moment to rewind and talk about Towns' recent struggles playing at power forward. If you remember, Minnesota made a huge move to bring in Rudy Gobert to play alongside Towns, with the idea that Towns could shift to the 4. The experiment didn't exactly go according to plan. The Timberwolves had a rough time in the first season after that trade, barely making the playoffs and getting knocked out early. Their offense just didn't click. Towns and Gobert together clogged up the paint, and it was clear from the beginning that this wasn't the best use of Towns' talents. However, the Wolves did manage to turn things around a bit the next season, primarily due to their elite defense. They reached the Western Conference Finals with Towns playing more of a supporting role behind the rising star Anthony Edwards. But even then, it was evident that Towns wasn't operating in his most effective spot on the floor. Back in 2017-18, under Thibodeau, Towns was dominating in the post more than any other category, and his efficiency during that time was unmatched. Since then, he hasn't been able to replicate that level of dominance. The Timberwolves didn't complicate things back then. They just put Towns on the block, fed him the ball, and let him go to work. He had a go-to move, that reliable jump hook over his left shoulder, and when he wasn't bullying smaller defenders in the post, he was setting hard screens and rolling to the basket. The Knicks are likely going to bring that version of Towns back. We've seen a sharp decline in his post-ups over the past couple of seasons. But looking at how Thibodeau used Julius Randle last year, it seems clear that Towns will be getting a lot more opportunities down low. Randle, for all his strengths, was given ample chances to operate on the block. And while Towns can certainly stretch the floor and knock down threes, Thibodeau is old school in his approach to big men. We're probably going to see Towns return to a more traditional center role, with a heavy emphasis on post play. Karl-Anthony Towns' role as a floor spacer has evolved significantly since his early years under Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota. Initially, Towns was still developing as a three-point shooter, but recently he led the league in pick-and-pop three-pointers, making him a key player in today's perimeter-oriented NBA. Picture Jalen Brunson setting a quick step-up screen and kicking it out to Towns, who's open for a 3. Unlike Isaiah Hartenstein, who lacked perimeter threat, Towns forces defenders to close out hard, creating lanes for teammates. This ability stretches defenses and opens up opportunities for better shots. Towns will shine in the Knicks ball movement, where his passing from the high post is particularly effective. He can deliver quick, high IQ passes from further out, stretching defenses even more and giving teammates additional space to operate. This capability could elevate the Knicks' offensive game significantly. The big question, though, is defense. Towns has long been criticized for his defense, and the advanced stats do him no favors here. Last year, the Timberwolves were actually better defensively when he was on the bench, and part of that can be attributed to how awkward he looked in certain defensive schemes, particularly when asked to hedge and recover. Towns isn't exactly known for his quick lateral movement, and NBA offenses are way too savvy to not exploit that. Teams consistently went at him in pick-and-pop situations, knowing that he had a hard time closing out on shooters. Thibodeau will need to come up with a game plan to mask some of Towns' defensive deficiencies. One strategy we could see is playing Towns alongside Mitchell Robinson more often. Robinson is one of the better rim protectors in the league, and pairing him with Towns could create a solid defensive front court. Robinson could take on the tougher defensive assignments, allowing Towns to focus more on staying in position and protecting the paint, where he's actually shown some ability to alter shots. According to NBA stats, among centers who played at least 60 games last year, Towns ranked 4th in limiting opponents' field goal percentage on shots within 6 feet of the basket. That's slightly better than Rudy Gobert, who is widely regarded as one of the best interior defenders in the league. But even with Robinson, the Knicks can't afford to ignore Towns' footwork on the perimeter. We've seen too many instances where he gets beat off the dribble or can't recover fast enough to contest a three-point shot. The Knicks will need to put him in situations where he can use his size and length to his advantage rather than relying on him to be a perimeter defender. So what does this all mean for the Knicks moving forward? Offensively, they're going to be in much better shape. Towns adds a level of versatility and shooting that they simply can't have with Randle or Hartenstein. Defensively, it's going to take some work, but the Knicks already have a strong defensive foundation. If Thibodeau can figure out how to hide Towns' weaknesses while maximizing his strengths, this team could make a deep playoff run. Another thing to keep in mind is the impact of removing Julius Randle from the roster. Randle has been a key piece for the Knicks, but his inconsistency, both in terms of his play and his attitude, has been a problem. Randle often carried a cloud over him, and it was clear that his mood affected his teammates. By moving on from him, the Knicks are not only opening up the floor more with Towns, but also potentially improving team chemistry. Towns does come with his own baggage, but from what we've seen, he tends to respond better when placed in positive environments. Thibodeau's no-nonsense style could be the key to keeping him motivated and locked in. If everything goes according to plan and the Knicks avoid any major injuries, they have a legitimate shot at making a deep playoff run. We're talking about a team that, with the right matchups and a little luck, could reach the conference finals. They've got the talent, they've got the coaching, and now with Towns, they've added the floor spacing and offensive versatility that should make them a much tougher out in the postseason. It's an exciting time to be a Knicks fan. We'll just have to wait and see how Thibodeau integrates Towns into the offense and what adjustments he makes on the defensive end. But one thing's for sure, this trade just made the Knicks a whole lot more interesting. To wrap it up, Karl-Anthony Towns could really be the missing piece for the Knicks title chase. What are your thoughts? Do you think he can get them there? Drop your comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe for more basketball talk. Thanks for hanging out with us and see you next time.